about the division of Iraq or keeping Iraq whole. On the one hand, when you look at some of these borders in the Middle East, they were all done by the colonialists, and I have often felt that why should we be obligated to maintain those borders? Iraq is not a real state. It was slapped together. You've got the Kurds, you've got the Shia and the Sunni, who really don't want to be part of each other. And so particularly the Kurds, who have autonomy now, practically have their own nation, and probably will proclaim it very shortly. So my sympathies would be to say to the Kurds, well, why should we suck you back into Iraq? You have the right to your own nation. And frankly, nobody has ever explained to me why the Palestinians are entitled to self-determination, but somehow the Kurds are not. I don't know. I don't think that's fair, quite frankly. It's my feeling, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Kurds, the consensus among the Kurds is that they want to separate from Iraq.
Yeah, the Kurds, as a lot of Kurds say to me, I think the heart of every Kurd wants an independent state. There's no question. I think we have to recognize that. We also have to recognize that the Kurds are among our very closest friends in the region. We have to have a very close partnership with the Kurds, and we do.
I just don't feel that it's fair to hold the Kurds hostage, because we've unfortunately screwed up things in Iraq, and everything is falling to pieces. We're essentially saying to the Kurds, you know what, you have to be the glue that keeps Iraq together, and therefore we're going to deny you your aspirations. I'm not quite sure that's fair.
Very, very concerned about Maliki and his credibility, which to me is absolutely zero. You know, it's been touched on a little bit, but I think from the United States that once again we have to recognize the changing geopolitical situation. I'm a strong, strong supporter of Kurdistan. We have to recognize that, and the point has been made about not one military person was killed in Kurdistan.
Maliki hasn't done a good job, has he? He hasn't done a good job, has he? He's made things worse, hasn't he? That we cannot just blame Maliki himself, but he has not provided the leadership that would be necessary to overcome what could be inherent problems with having a country called Iraq made up of that territory and those peoples that now compose that territory. That territory was devised and put together by European imperialists who decided that would be what the country of Iraq would look like. Let me just say that as far as I am concerned, the United States should not be having to limit itself and limit what solutions we can possibly have based on what the British Empire determined 100 years ago. And it all flows back to those people. So with that said, I would hope that we would be open to situations like having an actual Kurdistan exist. And the Kurds have always deserved to have their own national identity. And until we do, I happen to believe that no kind of leadership that we could put into place in Iraq is going to be successful. Maybe it's too much. Even if Maliki was the best, it might not be enough, because that may be an ungovernable creation that our British friends gave us as a present when they exited as world leader.
And then later, when then Senator Biden, who was the chairman of this committee, proposed more autonomy for the Sunnis and for the Kurds. Oh, and by the way, more than 70 senators voted for that. The then Bush administration laughed at it, kind of like people laughed right now. That's a lot of laughing. And I want to ask you about the Kurds. Both of you, I don't know which one either of you could answer. The Kurds in northern Iraq have long been a strong ally of the United States. and they have played an important role in countering the rapid advance of ISIS. When I went to Iraq a very long time ago, the bullets were flying, the Kurds, I found them to get what this was all about. And there's so much prejudice against the Kurds. The Kurdish militia offered to support Iraqi security forces when ISIS began its offensive in Mosul. Kurdish forces have kept much of northern Iraq out of terrorist hands. Kurdistan has become a destination for hundreds of thousands of Iraqis fleeing from ISIS-controlled territory. And, you know, I have to say, as I watch Mr. Maliki, I don't think he appreciates it. As the Iraqis continue to work to determine their future, I'm asking you, what role can the Kurds continue to play? And should the United States acknowledge that the Kurds should have a significant amount of autonomy? I think they've earned it, and I wondered what the administration position is vis-a-vis the Kurds and more autonomy for the Kurds.
Vice President Barzani has been on the phone a number of times with our Vice President Biden to talk about these issues. President Barzani has made clear to us he wants to act through the constitutional framework for resolving some of the disputed boundaries in which the Peshmerga has moved by necessity over the last 6 weeks. So, short answer to your question, we're in a very active conversation with the Kurds about this, and I am happy to follow up with you as it unfolds over the coming months.
And the United States will support more autonomy for the Kurds, then, I assume?
Through the government formation process, there will be an active debate. I will just say we very much support the Kurds on a particular critical issues. Baghdad, about 4 or 5 months ago, cut funding for salaries of workers in the Kurdish region. We've made very clear that's completely, totally unacceptable, and that has to be reversed. The Kurds have also done some things in some cases in which we've said that might exacerbate tensions in a way that wouldn't be particularly constructive. And that's why we're in a very active conversation. But we support autonomy within the constitutional framework, certainly.
Okay. I'm just saying, I don't know what the future is of that constitutional framework, but...
Well, first of all, I agree. Iraq is shattered. I hope the Kurds will finally get their independence, that the United States will recognize an independent Kurdistan. They've earned it by moral behavior and a lot of other things.